Chapter 1. Skylar's eyes quickly swept the lanes, looking for a police car. Driving down the highway at night at 75 miles per hour made it difficult to spot one, but she didn't want to get caught texting. When the coast was clear, she reached her hand into her purse to pull out her cell phone, becoming frustrated when she couldn't find it. She frantically felt around every inch of her purse. Why can't I find my phone? Oh my God, I hope I didn't forget it. After grabbing every object her fingers touched, she finally pulled out the phone. With a sigh of relief, her muscles relaxed. She knew texting while driving was illegal in her state, but since no cops were around, she wanted to text her cousin to let her know that she was almost there. Holding the wheel with her forearm and placing her phone right in front of her, her eyes shifted back and forth from the road to the keys, typing a few letters at a time. Skylar and her cousin were best friends, and every year in late August, she visited her for a few weeks. This was the first time she had driven to her aunt's house by herself. They lived in a very small town, and it took about an hour and a half to get there from Skylar's home. Almost there. Can't wait to see you. After she pressed send, she shoved the phone back inside her purse. Hearing her favorite song on the radio, she cranked up the volume a bit and sang along. Shortly after, she heard a high-pitched sound. Unsure where the noise was coming from, she turned the volume down. Shocked, she felt the dreadful sound rush to every nerve in her body, awakening her, terrifying her, making her heart thump so fast she thought her chest would split open. Surely I'm overreacting. After all, there are loads of cars speeding. But when she heard the horn signaling for her to get off the freeway, she looked in the rear-view mirror and saw the reds and blues flashing and twirling. For her. In that instant, she felt her blood pressure shoot up. How in the world? Where did that come from? I was so careful. Darn it. Exiting the freeway, she drove into the first place that looked safe. A gas station. The only person pumping gas replaced the nozzle, got into his car, and drove off, leaving her alone in the lot with the cop. She wished she could follow the other car and drive away, but instead she parked away from the gas pumps. No other stores were adjacent to the station. In fact, it was pretty much a standalone building in complete darkness. Who knew what could be lurking? What did I expect? I'm in nowhere, USA. Inside the station's mini-market, the light was on, indicating it was open, but from what she could see, there was nobody there besides the cashier. At least that made her feel safe. Somewhat. Glancing at the side view mirror, she realized that the officer was obviously taking his or her time getting out of the vehicle, since she saw no one approaching. Turning off the ignition, Skylar waited anxiously, biting her lip, thinking of ways to convince the cop not to give her a ticket. Tapping her foot and picking at her nails, it was like waiting for a courtroom verdict. Being around cops was intimidating enough, but being pulled over by one was even worse. People got tickets all the time, but this being Skylar's first made it difficult to bear. How would she explain this to her mom? As she apprehensively waited for the officer, she wondered what she had done to get pulled over. It was almost impossible for him to know she had been texting. Her mind reeled with unpleasant thoughts. What if he was a bad cop? What if he planted drugs in her car and made it seem like they were hers? More what-ifs circulated through her head. Watching the news and bad movies had definitely invaded her mindset. Tap, tap, tap. Skylar jumped, startled by the sound. Sorry, officer, she whimpered, starting the engine just to roll down the window and then quickly shutting it off again. The flashlight shone brightly, hindering her view, but she got a breath of the hot, sticky air that clung to her face. Having the air conditioner on in her car, she had forgotten how hot it was out. Even at night, the weather was intolerable. Hoping not to offend him or her, she moved a little to the left and got a clear view of his gorgeous, young face. With instant combustion, her heart fluttered a mile a minute and her stomach churned nervously. She felt her face grow hot as she flushed and her body temperature shot up, either from the sight of him or the searing weather, perhaps the combination of both. Whatever it was, he was the gravity pulling her in. She was wrapped in his invisible force, taking in all of his hotness, and she was almost sure he was looking back at her with the same intensity. Breathe. Exhale. She had heard of love at first sight, but this was more like lust at first sight. What is wrong with me? Stop staring! Sheepishly, she unglued her eyes from his beautiful greenish-blue ones. She couldn't tell exactly what color they were. Trying not to stare, she saw a pearl drop of sweat trickle from his hairline. She didn't want to look into his eyes again, for fear she may get lost in them and not be able to look away. Shifting her view, she focused on his uniform. It fit perfectly to the curve of his muscles. His clean-shaven face brought out his high cheekbones, and every part of him looked flawless, from his hair to his broad shoulders, and all the way down as far as she could see. She had seen good-looking cops, mostly on television, but for goodness sake, sizzle. "Can I see your driver's license?" he said flatly in a low, masculine voice. Pause. Even the tone of his voice made her heart race. "Get a grip. Do you have a girlfriend?" "Your driver's license." Pause. "Your license." "Oh, I'm sorry, but this is my first time being pulled over. Did I do something wrong?" She blushed, focusing on his name tag. Officer Doug. "I need to see your driver's license." She reached into her purse, pulled out her wallet, and then her license. "Here, it's really not a good picture." The officer's lips formed a thin line. "We don't judge." He winked. Oh my God, he winked at me. Skylar felt her cheeks flush again, and she wondered if he noticed. "Skylar Rome?" "Yes, that's me." She pointed to her license. After staring for some time, he handed it back to her. "You're new in this town, aren't you?" Yes, I mean... Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. "Can't make up your mind?" The officer chuckled, obviously amused by her nervousness. Skylar giggled. "I visit my cousin here every summer. I was on my way there. Did I do something wrong, officer?" Skylar wanted to know what she had done to get pulled over, so she would not do it again, though she wouldn't mind being pulled over by him again. The officer didn't answer her, even though she'd now asked twice. He seemed flustered, looking intently into the empty darkness around the gas station, as if he could see something there. "Miss Rome, can you open your trunk?" "Oh, sure, I only have my bags in there." She did as he requested and popped the trunk from the inside. "Should I come out?" "No," he said, a little too sternly. "Stay there and don't move." His tone startled her at first, but she didn't think much of it. After a few seconds, he came back. "Skylar." "Yes?" She looked into his eyes and blinked, mystified. She could have sworn his irises pulsated and turned the color of silver. "Just be careful," he warned, and walked away. Skylar exhaled a deep breath she didn't realize she was holding. With a sigh of relief, she placed her driver's license back inside her wallet. When she cranked the engine, she looked to the left to make sure it was safe to make a U-turn. But she jumped again when she saw the officer standing beside her car where he had stood before. Did he change his mind and decide to give me a ticket? "Don't text while you're driving, it's dangerous. It's also against the law if you didn't know," he scolded. "Oh, okay, I'll remember next time," she smiled. "Thank you." How did he know? With a nod, he turned away and headed back to his car. Skylar looked in her rearview mirror, but he was already gone. That really happened, right? She took out her phone and read a text from her cousin. "Can't wait." Skylar texted back, "I got pulled over by a gorgeous cop. He let me go. Explain when I get there." Ecstatic she didn't get a ticket, she pushed the pedal and drove out of the gas station. Kayla lived in a 2-story house. All of the houses on that block were cookie-cutter homes, built practically touching each other. It was difficult to tell which one was Kayla's, especially since there were hardly any streetlights, so Skylar looked for not just her address, but also the white mailbox that glowed in the dark. The first thing Skylar did when she arrived at her cousin's house was to run to ring the doorbell. Kayla swung the front door open and pulled her cousin in for a tight squeeze. "I'm so glad you're here!" Kayla wore a gray tank top and cotton shorts. Her brunette hair brushed Skylar's face, and she noticed that it was longer than it had been on the last visit, now passing her shoulder blades. "You grew your hair," Skylar said, pulling it back. "I love it." "Me too," Kayla giggled, flipping her hair. "Your hair got longer too. Great minds think alike." Kayla giggled again. Enough about our hair. So, what happened? A hot-looking guy pulled you over? Her eyes were beaming with curiosity. Skylar nodded with a shy smile. Hottest guy ever. Did he give you a ticket? Skylar swiped her hand across her forehead. Nope. Thank God, or Mom would kill me. You got lucky. He probably thought you were cute and let you go. What? Skylar blushed, thinking how cool that would have been if those thoughts had run through his mind. But what did it matter anyway? What were the odds of seeing him again? She figured the chances were slim to none. It's not a big deal. I got my first ticket about a month ago. You have to go to traffic school to get it off your record. You can even do it online. So did you ask him to cuff you? Kayla snorted. I wish I'd thought of that. I was too busy trying to get my mouth to work. I was staring at him like an idiot. She shook her head, thinking how silly she'd acted. Let me get my bags. Do you need help? Nope. Skylar ran out, clicked the remote to unlock the doors, and came back in with 2 duffel bags in her purse. That's it? Just 2 bags? Kayla exclaimed. I'm only staying for 3 weeks, not a year. I'm not like you, Skylar teased. So where's your mom? She's still at work. We keep the diner open until midnight during the summer, don't you remember? Yes, of course. But for a split second, I had forgotten. I bet I know why, she smirked. So did you get his name? Maybe I'll run into him next time and I'll tell him my cousin has a crush on him. You wouldn't dare. Skylar slapped Kayla playfully and ran upstairs with her bags in her hand, and Kayla at her heels. As Skylar settled into the guest room, the girls sat on the bed and discussed their summer plans.
What did you think about that amazing teaser? Pretty cool, huh? If you'd like to finish the story, which I'm pretty sure you do, the details are in the description below. Now smash that subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on your next favorite novel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell.